Welcome!
Welcome to the Hangout. Hello, boys, ladies, and gentlemen. Hello, and welcome to the Hangout with your host, Joshua Martin. As you can hear this beautiful music in the background, composed by James Hetfield, Lars Ulrich, hit the lights actually, Dave Mustaine actually, and Rodman Governey. But we'll talk about that history in a little bit. Alright, we can turn that music down a little bit now, Katie. That's such a beautiful opening song by them. But today we're going to be talking about... Katie, today we're going to be talking about... I need a new board operator. No, it was kind of close. You have to hit 2 or 3 on the intro graphic. Metallica! See, it's all cool and it's perfectly set up, but... Okay, today we're going to be talking about Metallica, the history behind Metallica, and just some of my favorite songs. The reason we're going to be talking about Metallica is because they are coming out with a new album this year called 72 Seasons. It's coming out April 14th of this year, and they already released 2, I guess you want to call it singles for the album, but just 2, releases saying, hey, we're coming out with new stuff this year. One of the songs is called Lux Eterna, which is actually a really good song, and another one is called Screaming Suicide. I know James Hetfield wrote about that because of what he's been going through the past couple of years, going back to rehab and all that. But we saw 2 new songs for them. This is going to be their second album on their own label, Black Album Records, I believe that's what it's called. But it's their own label. Metallica is now an indie artist, so we'll see what happens with that. But let's get into a little history with Metallica. So we can pull up that first image while we're at it. They formed in 1981 in Los Angeles with Lars Ulrich and James Hetfield. They had a couple other members. That was way before Metallica. They didn't even have the name Metallica, but it started out with James and Lars on drums and guitar. In that image right there, you see from left to right, James Hetfield, Lars Ulrich, Cliff Burton, and Dave Mustaine. And to many people, that's the true heart of Metallica. That's the speedy, no craps giving people right there. They started, like I said, they started out in L.A. Lars Ulrich put in an ad in the Recycler, a newspaper company in local region, saying drummer looking for other metal musicians to jam with, and he put bands to play alongside with, like tunes from Iron Maiden, tunes from Saxon, because Lars was born in Denmark and he was a gifted tennis prodigy, so he knew a lot of these European metal bands that really didn't come across the airwaves in America, because you got to realize this is back in 1981. Everyone didn't have cell phones. Everyone didn't have Spotify. So if someone came out with a song in, I don't know, say in London, they're not going to know right of it right away like we do today. They have to wait for it to listen to it on the radio, listen to it on the TV, listen to it somewhere, you know. But like I said, Lars knew all these bands that a lot of people didn't know in America. So when he came over and played with James, they were playing bands like Saxon and all these other top songs across the sea. But everyone was blown away by, oh my God, you have such an amazing sound, even though it wasn't theirs. They were just playing cover songs the whole time. and everyone loved it. But Lars had the inside scoop with managers, and one of the big producers that he got in touch with was for a label company called Metal Massacre, who was coming out with a compilation album of these local metal bands in the area, and they all had 1 or 2 songs on that album. One of the songs that James and Lars came up with was Hit the Lights, the beginning song you heard today. It was not the same one you hear on Kill 'Em All. If you go to the Metal Massacre, it's on YouTube, and it's a very cool song because you get to hear the beginning stages of Metallica. James's voice is high and squeaky like a little girl's. It's kind of cool, and I don't even think Dave Mustaine plays on that one. I think it's Lloyd Grant is credited with the guitar for lead guitar on that specific album track. The original bassist is not what you see there, Cliff Burton. It was Ron McGovney. He later was soon kicked out of the band because James said he had no influence of the band. He was just there for the ride, basically. And then they went to go see a band called Trauma in San Francisco, and they were blown away by this bassist who didn't really play like a normal bass player, you know? He was like a lead guitarist on bass. He used the wah a lot, which goes, it's just a guitar pedal, you know, that goes wah, wah, wah. If you listen to Voodoo Child, if you listen to, I guess, Enter Sandman by these guys, the solo for that, it has a heavy influence on the wah pedal. But they were blown away by Cliff, and Cliff originally didn't want to join the band. He said, if you guys move to San Francisco, then I'll reconsider it, and that's what they went on doing. They moved to San Francisco, got Cliff, and they started playing everywhere. Whiskey A Go-Go, all these places around San Francisco, and they were tearing up the scene in that local area. Soon enough, they were going to come out with their first album. And they moved to New York to record it. Once they got there, they actually created their name by their 2 favorite combinations, metal and liquor, for Metallica. And that kind of messed them up a little bit. They were heavy alcoholic drinkers. And Dave Mustaine, the lead guitarist for the original lead guitarist for the band, he was soon kicked out because he had an alcoholic problem. And he was kind of wakened up this one morning. If you want to watch a good film on it, watch Some Kind of Monster. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But he was kind of just waking up and just said, you're out of the band, really. There was an incident with the original bassist, Ron McGovney. Supposedly, Dave Mustaine got drunk and he poured his beer, it was either James or Dave, but poured his beer on the neck of Ron's bass guitar and almost electrocuted him. So there was a lot of fights going on with them drinking and all that. So they kicked Dave Mustaine out and soon replaced him, if we can go to the next image, with Kirk Hammett of Exodus. And right there is the new and upcoming Metallica that would truly take over the world. I mean, if you saw, there's a TV show called Metalocalypse, and they literally sell their souls to go and see concerts of this one band. And that's kind of the stardom and fame that Metallica was rising to. I mean, they had the fan base that no one could answer to, really. Literally a month later, after they kicked Dave Mustaine out, Kirk had to rework all the guitar solos on their debut record, which was called Kill 'Em All, and it was produced by Megaforce Records. The original title they wanted for the album was called Metal Up Your Ass, but the producer, Palato Company, really didn't want that going out there, so they had to change it to Kill 'Em All, which was Cliff Burton's idea for the title record. Kill 'Em All came out in July 25th, 1983. It had many hit songs on it. I mean, it wasn't their biggest record, but it had songs like Seek and Destroy, Hit the Lights, as you heard, Four Horsemen, and a lot of other songs that were put them in this new light, because they weren't the pioneers, but they were the head honchos of this new wave of thrash metal, which was a new genre of metal that came into the scene. They were part of the Big Four, which was the big four thrash metal. Them. It also included Slayer. It also included Anthrax and Megadeth, which was actually formed by Dave Mustaine recently after he got kicked out. And if you listen to the song Mechanics on their first album, Killing Is Megadeth record, Killing Is My Business, I believe that's their first record. Listen to the song Mechanics. It's literally the same song as Four Horsemen, because on the record Kill 'Em All for Metallica, Dave Mustaine helped co-write Four Horsemen, Motor Breath, Jump in the Fire, and I believe it's either Phantom Lord of Whiplash. He is credited though, but like I said, Kirk had to rewrite everything on that album. If we move a little ahead in time, right after that, they released their second album a year later, July 27th, 1984. That album is called Ride the Lightning. It had, I think Ride the Lightning is a better album. I mean, that's the shirt I'm wearing right now. I think it's the greatest album they ever came out with. Fight Fire with Fire is probably the heaviest song of all time. For Whom the Bells Told, you wouldn't even believe that it's a bass riff in the beginning. I always thought it was a guitar riff the whole time. But then you look up Live at Oakland, and Cliff does that beautiful solo in the beginning, and then he goes and does the actual intro. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, they have other songs on here like Fade to Black, which is a beautiful ballad, really. It's a metal ballad, and it was written about, they lost all their equipment, I believe, on tour one day. And after they lost all their equipment, James thought everything was kind of useless and dead because they didn't have anything with them. No guitars, no amps, anything. So he wrote the song Fade to Black. And then they got the two ending songs, Creeping Death, which live is, it's an ungodly experience with the whole crowd just chanting die, die, die. Incredible. And then Call of Cthulhu is a beautiful compromise song. Their second instrumental song, because they had Anesthesia on the first album, a beautiful bass solo by Cliff Burton. And then we go on to their third album with Cliff Burton, Master of Puppets, their third studio record as well, Master of Puppets, that came out on March 3rd, 1986. And that was by far their breakthrough album that would not put them in the spotlight, but bring them to a higher notice, because they were traveling on tour this time with Ozzy, doing Ozfest. And I mean, even during that time, they were opening for Ozzy, obviously, but they weren't booing Ozzy off, but they wanted more of Metallica than they wanted Ozzy, which was absolutely unprecedented at the time, especially with the stardom and the fame that Ozzy had. But Metallica was rising to a new place, especially with their hit self-titled song Master of Puppets, Disposable Heroes, Orion, a beautiful instrumental that they did, and Damage Incorporated. Now, if you listen to the deluxe albums they came out with recently, they have beautiful tapes on there of demos and riffs that they were coming up with. On the Black album, they have Jason Newsted's bass solo, not bass solo, but like isolated bass solo tracks. There we go. That was the word I was looking for, isolated. And it was isolated bass solo tracks on The God That Failed and one more. What's the other one that has the beautiful bass intro? Oh, My Friend in Misery and The God That Failed. Those isolated bass solo tracks are beautiful. But Katie, if we can put up the James riff, I want everyone to hear it real quick, because his down picking and his strength and his technique of hitting that E note and creating these riffs, he's just a mastermind. That was close, but the James riffs in the music slot. Hold on, it's coming. There we go. And this is literally just James's riff outtake from Damage Incorporated, isolated track. And you can really just hear his precision on the notes he's hitting, and everything's all in tune. There's nothing like out of sorts, anything. It just sounds nice and heavy, you know? And then that riff right there. Oh, that sounds so beautiful. All right, we're gonna start turning it down. Just you gotta listen to all the isolated tracks on the deluxe albums because they're just beautifully. I don't know how to incorporate. I mean, you just get to hear how they created the songs, and I mean, they're one of the biggest bands of all time. They're probably the biggest rock band right now, as we talk today. But it's just incredible hearing the stuff they come up with. But in the year of 1986, Cliff Burton, who was just a prodigy on the bass guitar, I mean, no one can compare with him at all. He was playing a card game with the lead guitarist Kirk Hammett, drawing cards, and Cliff drew an ace of spades, and he says, "I want your bed." And later that night, they were driving in Sweden, very icy roads. I think it was like midnight. It was something, I don't know. And the bus driver skidded, and the bus kind of toppled over, and Cliff kind of flew out the window where he was laying, and the bus actually kind of collapsed on him. The bus driver said he saw black ice. James didn't know what was going on. He said he just said he saw the bus lying right on him. He freaked out. I didn't know if the bus driver was drunk or if he hit some ice. All I knew was he was driving and Cliff wasn't alive anymore. They lost Cliff on September 27th, 1986. And, I mean, they had to keep going. Cliff said he wanted the band to keep going. So they were looking for new bassists. And they tried out many different people. They even tried out Kirk Hammett's long childhood buddy, Les Claypool, who, if you know him, he's the bass player and lead singer for a band called Primus, which those two sounds wouldn't work at all. You can look up Primus playing Woodstock Live it's either 99 or 94, and he does Master of Puppets live, and he does it slapping. So, and if you can, you just got to look it up. It's hard as is playing normally, but he's doing it slapping, which is 10 times harder. And it's such a cool sound, but it definitely would have worked for Metallica. So they got Jason Newsted from a band called Flotsam and Jetsam. He soon joined the band right after, and soon they would come out with their fourth studio album, And Justice for All. It came out September 1988, and this was their first top 10 on Billboard. It came out with songs like And Justice for All, obviously. It came out with songs with Blackened, the opening track, One, which came out with a music video, and it entailed a movie film in it called Johnny's Got His Gun, who they bought the rights for. And at the Grammys, they made a lot of controversy there too during that year with that album. Because in the Grammys, it was their first rock metal performance vocal. They didn't know what metal was. They didn't really know what heavy rock and roll was at the Grammys. So they were trying something new. I mean, they had a list of a list of amazing albums that came out that year too. They came out with damn, I should have done a little more research. Okay, but it was between And Justice for All. I believe Rust in Peace came out that year as well from Megadeth, which was an amazing record by them as well too. But the big news is the winner. The winner of that metal performance was Jethro Tull's Crest of a Knave. the flute player won Best Metal Album that year. And that was one of the biggest Grammy controversials of all time. And I mean, it still is today one of the biggest Grammy controversials. Soon enough, they came out with, we can pull up the next image. They came out with Black Album, came out in August 12th, 1991. And there's Jason Newsted, the new bassist for the band. And the Black Album really shot them in like the forefront of things. I mean, this is where people started knowing the name in everyone's household of Metallica. And they came out with songs like Enter Sandman, came out with songs with Nothing Else Matters, Sad But True. And these are the hits that everyone knows. You know, this is the songs that they play. They end every show with, obviously, Nothing Else Matters to Enter Sandman. I'm not a big fan of it, but it's what everyone knows. I mean, they got other songs in there that are absolutely amazing. Don't Tread on Me. I was saying The God That Failed, My Friend of Misery, and those isolated bass solo tracks are absolutely beautiful. Man, my throat. It launched them into heavy stardom that they just could not handle at all. Soon they came out with other albums called Load and Reload. What's the next photo after that, actually? If I can get a hint of where we're at. Huh? Oh, okay. That's just a beautiful concert that they played at in Moscow, Monsters of Rock. This is right after the Berlin Wall fell. This is right after the Soviet Union dismantled and it was coming back as Russia. And the crowd there was absolutely ginormous. Like I said, the festival was called Monsters of Rock. Metallica played there, AC/DC played there, Pantera played there. It was a heavy concert for whatever reason. If we go to the next one after that, the next GIF, it really shows how heavy the crowd was, and I just want to be at that concert so bad, feeling the atmosphere and everything, because I can't imagine how heavy that thing was. Later in the 90s, they came out with a couple more albums. Load, June 4th, 1996, and Reload, November 18, 1997. These were more not the Metallica sound, you know. This was them changing things up. They shaved their heads. They got a new sound. Things were changing on them. I don't know if they can handle all the fame and fortune and everything, but it was definitely the switch. I don't want to say the downfall either, but it was something different for them coming up soon. But Load and Reload were more of, not metal, but it was more of a nice rock and roll sound. Nothing fast. It was a lot slower, just heavy chords being played. I mean, they have amazing songs on there like Wasting My Hate, Fixer, Outlaw Torn, Fuel. Memory Remains is actually a really good one live. King Nothing. All these beautiful songs came out with on there. And then the final, not the final performance, but the final draw for Jason Newsted, they went to San Francisco and did a beautiful performance on, it's called S&M. They did it with the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra. This was played April 21st and 22nd in 1999. And they produced a brand new song with them called No Leaf Clover, which is a fan love song by everyone. It's absolutely beautiful. And then comes the downfall of Metallica. April 13th, 2000, Metallica, mainly Lars Ulrich, filed a suit against Napster for copyright infringement, unlawful use of digital audio interface device, and the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. This was a lawsuit that Lars filed against Napster for illegally downloading a lot of their songs. A lot of fans really hated it. They booed him at award shows. And right after that, too, Jason Newsted leaves the band because supposedly he said he had personal conflict, but James wouldn't allow Jason Newsted to work on side projects. He wanted to work on his side project band Echo Brain, which you can see in this film right here called Some Kind of Monster. April 2001, Joe Bellinger and Bruce Sinofsky documented Metallica with the therapist that they had come in, Phil Towell, in a movie called Some Kind of Monster. It showcases the band as they come out with their Come On, Ride, Master, Injustice, Black, Load, Reload. Come out with their 8th studio album. You're going a little too far. Go back one more. As they come out with their 8th studio album, it shows them going into the studio and doing all these things, but it also shows James going into his first case of rehab due to alcoholism. I mean, this was a very rough point for the band. It's a very beautiful film. It's kind of hard to watch because, I mean, it starts out with Jason leaving the band. The band's all in shambles. I mean, the producer, Bob Rock, had to play the bass on this next album. They didn't have a bassist at all. I mean, it's such a cool film because, I mean, even in the film, they showcase bass tryouts for all these people that wanted to come and play for them, including their next bassist, Robert Trujillo. But it's an incredible film. You just got to go out and watch it. Now you can go to the next image because they got that member right there, Rob Trujillo, and it was in 2003. His anniversary just came up. He's been with the band now for 20 years. He recently played with Ozzy and a band called Suicidal Tendencies. And soon they would come out with them all together, their first album with Robert Trujillo on bass, September 12th, 2008. And this would be produced by Rick Rubin, a world famous producer. This album came out with many hits, including All Nightmare Long, Cyanide, The Day That Never Comes, My Apocalypse, and they finally came out with another instrumental song called Suicide and Redemption, which is not the greatest, but they haven't played one since Injustice for All. It's a beautiful, beautiful instrumental song. They finally came into the Hall of Fame April 4th, 2009, and they came out with a movie called Through the Never, September 27th, 2013. And, it was actually a pretty cool film because it's a concert stage, but also has footage outside of that with actor. He played Green Goblin in The Amazing Spider-Man. I can't remember his name right now. Famous actor. Oh, Dan DeHaan. That's who played in it. Very good actor. Just go out, watch that film. And their most recent album is Hardwired, or Hardwired to Self-Destruct. November 18, 2016 is when that one came out. That was their first album with their own record company. If we can go to the next image, we can show the band nowadays. Oh, that's that was from the movie Through the Never. Very cool movie. Go to the next image after that, though. And that's where they are at right now. They're old. They're still having fun. They're still doing what they love to do. Like I said, they're going to come out with a new album soon called 72 Seasons. Comes out April 14, 2023 this year. Some of the track list includes, like I said, 72 Seasons, self-titled. We already heard Lux Eterna. We already heard Screaming Suicide. I mean, some of these names are a little dark, so it may be a little heavier album. I know James is coming back from his second rehab as well, too. So we'll see what happens. I mean, this new album is, I don't know, we'll see what happens. I know a lot of fans aren't happy with the new sound. They want the old Metallica. They want the big 3 albums back, but people change. A lot of things change. And we'll see what happens with that album. I guess it's time for me to wrap things up. So this has been The Hangout with Joshua Martin. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Come hang out with me next week, Monday, 11 a.m. I still don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I'll get that to you guys out this weekend. So, peace out. Thank you for watching The Hangout. If you want to be on the show, just contact me at 888-994-4995 Studio A. Thank you.